Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Nuna. I am so glad to be here with you today. And we're going to host a live conversation, and you're so welcome to attend. Again, my name is Nuna. I'm the founder and executive director of Wounded Healers International. And Wounded Healers International exists to end the cycle and cultures of sexual violence. So this month, the April, is a very important month for us at Wounded Healers, and I believe in everywhere worldwide, especially for people who fight and advocate for survivors of sexual violence and those who continue to support survivors and to educate one another about sexual violence. So April is Sexual Violence Awareness Month, and this is the month that we engage in education dialogues to eradicate sexual violence. It is also time that we hold space for survivors of sexual violence, where we tell them that we see you, we hear you, we're here to work with you. And it's also the time that we really invite the community to join in their own communities and feel comfortable to talk about sexual violence and educate one another, and also continue being a voice and support the victim and those people who are suffering in silence. So today with me, we are going to be holding a discussion. We're going to be holding discussions every Friday, bringing in different guests and people who advocate for to end sexual violence. So we will be bringing in guests every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time and 8 p.m. East African time. So I hope that you're going to join us. With me today, I'm going to have a discussion with Tyler Gleason. Tyler Gleason is my husband. And we thought it's very important of us to come together because we're so dedicating to work for wounded healers and to support survivors of sexual violence. So Tyler is going to join with us, and our topic today is to talk about rape culture and what rape culture is and how we can do to stop it. So with no more, I'm gonna bring in Tyler, and he's gonna welcome Tyler.
Thank you for having me, Nuna.
So if it's okay for you, I will invite you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Tyler Gleason. As Nuna stated, I am her husband and very fortunate to be so.
Thank you so much, Tyler, for finding some time to come and join us today. So our topic today, like we discussed, is to talk about rape culture, and I just want to know. We're going to host a discussion, no interview. We can talk back and forth, but I'll give you more time to talk about what you understand with rape culture, or what does rape culture mean to you, or what does that mean?
So to me, rape culture is the objectifying of women mainly. I know that there are examples of men being raped, but I think for the purposes of wounded healers, it's primarily focused on the larger group of rape survivors and preventing rape. So to me, I think the biggest aspect of rape culture is objectifying women. And I think it's important to remember that the word objectifying can be sort of lost in definition, where it literally means treating someone or something as an object instead of a human being in this case, where women are not treated as equals to men in all aspects of society. And I think rape is sort of a byproduct of that treatment, if you will. So I think the objectification aspect, meaning women are objects and not human beings, is the biggest factor, in my opinion. So other than that, I think it's, women have been treated as just child bearers, throughout a long history in society, and homekeepers, that kind of thing, to where it's very detrimental to all of us to look at them, to look at women that way, because they're so dynamic and so, women can be so brilliant, so powerful, so smart, and physically gifted. Not just, they're not weak. Let's put it that way. So, I think it's important to start to get somewhere in the aspect of not objectifying women, to seeing women as equal human beings, which should hopefully start to shift rape culture.
Yeah, thank you. And I think if you know me, you know I come from Kenya, and I come from a tradition, or how I grew up and how I understand the rape culture right now is very different, because my community, I grew up in a tradition and a culture that men are very dominant, and there's a lot of patriarchal. Is it patriarchal? Is that the right word?
Patriarchy.
Patriarchy. So so women and men from growing up, who are not taught as if we are enough, as if we can have um, even now, most women don't own even natural resources like pieces of land in my culture. And so those are the things that we have seen. And also, we're going to talk about examples, but the tradition and the culture of what you've learned, of how you see women, I think it's an invite for everybody to look at what they have learned, what they have taught before, and try to learn, or to learn new things and way of life. And rape for sure, and really is a terror, and it's the it discourages and makes so many people, especially in this time we're going to be using the term women, most of cases women and girls, because statistically shows that 1 in 3 women have will be victim of sexual violence before the age of 18. So we use women and men and girls mostly in our conversation, but that doesn't mean that we don't see those who are not um who use who are not classified in a gender ideology of being women and girls. So, but for our discussion today, we are going mostly to mention women and men. And I don't know what, when we talk about rape culture, sometimes, Tyler, it feels as if it's far. It's something that it's not clear. Like, what's rape culture specifically? Would you mind giving us examples of like what objectification that you just said? What are those examples for somebody who does not get the term, or doesn't have an realistic or actual example of what that means?
Yeah, sure. I think, good question. I think to start back in time a little bit in this country, and what might be a little more prevalent where you're from, is where women are objectified. They are more or less owned by a man. So like not having ability to own land, or in this country, it wasn't long ago, women needed their husband's permission to open a bank account or a credit card, or something of that nature. That the the beginning, I guess, of objectification was ownership, where women were not their own person. They only existed because of their partners, their male partners. Like even using women taking men's last name. Now some choose to do that still, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not here to judge, just trying to lay it out there. But even still, which makes me laugh, is where, and I think it still happens, where couples, typically married couples, will be introduced as Mr. and Mrs. John Smith or whatever, like Mr. and Mrs. the guy's name. You know what I mean? So like the women are just like a sidecar to the man who actually does the living and the creating and the purchasing and selling and owning, especially that kind of thing. So from there, I think it kind of stems off that as young people grow older, they see these kinds of behaviors and maybe joke about women in a sexual way, especially, and pointing out their bodies or their looks, one way or the other. I think that, let's see, you see a lot in the media too, like the sexualization of women. So we're kind of inundated from all sides from a young age of images of women and what women should be doing, who women should be at home or in society. And quite frankly, it's not fair. It doesn't really make sense. I have 3 daughters myself, and I can't imagine that just because they're a girl that they get different treatment. It just makes no sense to me. But we can even see it in wage equality, or wage inequality, I should say. That I'm not sure what the numbers are now. I feel like what I've heard recently is that there was some progress made in wage equality where women are making a little more than they used to compared to a man. But the last figure I remember was 76 cents for women on the dollar in comparison to what men earn. So I think, other ways that rape culture is perpetuated is like, you see, especially in the college area, college sports even, kind of thing, where young men they're let off the hook for raping people, and that it's just sort of like a boys will be boys kind of mentality, that, men are just physically aggressive and sexually aggressive, and that's just who they are, and we have to deal with that instead of changing that aspect. Like, it's kind of a shame that we have to teach girls how to avoid rape when we're not necessarily teaching boys not to rape, or I guess, it's not that we're teaching anybody to rape, right? But at the same time, if all of the other actions leading up to rape are okay, then why is rape wrong? In the mentality of a rapist, I guess. And then beyond that, I think there is a lot of work that we can do for teaching young men and boys all men, I should say, all people really, but for this instance, we need more education and more normalcy around emotional health and emotional control. And I think, that kind of goes hand in hand with mental health also. But how is it that someone can rape somebody? I can't even fathom, what that is like, or what goes through someone's mind, but not having control over your emotions and not being allowed to express your emotions or being looked down upon is a huge detriment.
And I think, like you said, like statements that we use, like I always invite people to look at the examples or conversation that they have. Like, for example, very, very, the jokes that are so sexual that people make and laugh about them. Like, for example, and especially about the people's body. People will make a joke and the other people will laugh. And those are the examples that continue to fuel, to encourage the rape culture. Some of the things that I grew up hearing is like, oh, boys will be boys. You know, you girls we can be boys. Oh, that boy is like an uncle. Like boys will always be boys, and that's like allowing them to be boys, and them then going ahead and doing what they think is right for them. Also, like when I was growing up, like even today, in so many instances, we hear all these discussions in the media, people saying, okay, it's okay, a woman, there is no one man for one woman. That means we men are allowed to have multiple women. When a woman is, if you do that, you accused of promiscuous. Instead of like saying no, it's the same, it's we are equal in this place. If men are not allowed to have two women, all those stories continue to to give men sometime unconsciously that feeling of them being okay, we are in power. Boys will always be boys. Oh, I'm going to hang out with boys, and boys will always be boys. It's okay for them to go and play with women outside, and other things that I hear most of the time, and this goes to men, is like men are so much pressurized to score. They told you score, you are the head. Men are put so much pressure and expected them to score, and when they're not scoring, they're seen as weak. In my community, men will not cry because they're men. That means that no matter how they feel, they're not allowed to express their emotion as they feel, or they need to. And then when women are so I mean when men are so pushed to score, women are meant to be submissive. You say yes, you serve, you law, a man is supposed. So that difference has been always been there. People don't notice them. Like a parent, I have a son and I have a daughter. I start treating them different when they are still young, and so when they grow up, they already know we're different. A girl is supposed to be cleaning dishes, where I'm supposed to be looking after cows. A girl cannot go outside. Your girl should be sweeping the houses. So those are the things that are so normalized that people don't notice, and when people grow up and they start being very, very abusive. The other thing that I always want to mention is like when a victim of sexual violence come up to speak and share their experience, people don't believe them. They start victimizing the victim. They start questioning, what were you wearing, where were you. So there is so much blame for the victim of sexual violence, and that continue giving an opportunity for rape culture. That's a sign of rape culture, because when a in Kenya one day there was like my dress my choice, something hashtag going on, because the conversation was girls were being raped because of how they dress. That means they because they dress in miniskirts, that's an invitation for them to be raped. And so, and it was justified, it was kind of justification, that's why they were raped. And so it will always shifted to the blame of the girls or women or those who were raped. And um the society didn't do, or the community didn't do good work in teaching people, like it's not about how you dress, it's not about where you are at night. It's a rapist to be blamed. It's never a survivor's or a victim fault. It's always the rapist who is to blame. So if you're listening to us today, we're talking about rape culture. April is Sexual Violence Awareness Month. We do this to educate the community about sexual violence and how we can continue to eradicate and to fight sexual violence. And if you're listening to us today and you're telling yourself, oh, I'm a survivor of sexual violence, it happened 10 years ago, it happened when I was a child, I didn't talk about it, and now this is reminding you, I encourage you to take care of yourself. And if you need support, send us a text and we'll follow up. We offer free counseling and free support for all survivors of sexual violence, wherever you are worldwide. We are always here to listen to you. So coming back to you, Mr. Gleason, or I'm just wondering, from your opinion and with all those examples, how can men and women combat or end rape culture? What can we do? What's the call to action for men and women?
Well, I think there was an example I thought of as you were speaking about women being blamed for their own rape, or women in general being blamed for rape happening, based on what they wear. So I was thinking about that, and it's like, okay, if you left the village and got attacked by a lion, let's just say, and you lived to tell the tale, when you came home, your mom might say, "What were you doing there?" Part of you being attacked by this lion is your fault, right? And that's understandable. You don't go walking around into a lion's den and not expect to be at least growled at, right? But I think in the example of human beings, right, it's almost like if you're blaming the woman for getting raped, then it's almost like the man is just some untamable wild creature that has no ability to change or comprehend or have emotions, So to me, I think, which helps answer your question, it starts there, really. It takes people to understand the real impact that rape has on our sisters, our mothers, grandmothers, daughters, and we have to understand that rape is not some scary creature in a movie that is never going to happen to you or that doesn't touch your life. Quite likely, someone who has been raped, whoever you are. Whether you know it or not is a different story, right? But as you said, just by the numbers, 1 in 3, I mean, that touches almost everyone. And I think it's a real shame for women to have to swallow that for maybe their whole life, try to justify whatever happened to them, that's a real struggle. But to get back to the point, we have to start by holding men accountable for their behavior, And I think also men holding other men accountable for their behavior, trying to humanize everyone, people on both sides, that women are human beings. They're not objects, as I stated before, they're strong, powerful, smart creatures, that run this world. If we didn't have women, we'd be living in hell, to be honest.
We wouldn't be here. I don't think we'd be here.
Exactly. But on the other hand, let's humanize men in the aspect that we are also creatures of a larger brain, complex emotions, that we're not some wild animal that can't be tamed. We need people to understand that rape is a choice for the rapist,
Mm-hmm.
that you not only should you be accountable for your behavior and the control of your emotions, but you should have resources available, I think, to help understand what might be going on in someone's emotional state or their mind or whatever,
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think just to add, from what you're saying, like, men just need to hold one another accountable. And like, if somebody come and tell you that they are survivors of sexual violence, or if they have been raped, it's a responsibility for you to take that seriously and not try to feed your curiosity. I must say, like, I've had this work to fighting sexual violence. I've done it for 14 years, and I've met so many people who have always shared that they're survivors of sexual violence, and especially in the police stations. If you look at police stations, most of the police stations are men who are the police. Maybe most from where I come from, but if a woman has been raped, they go to report. The police ask so many questions that make these women uncomfortable, and they don't want to believe. They want to get where were you or what was going on at that time. So an invitation for men to take one another accountable, and not only as women or survivors of sexual violence, whether they are men or any survivor of sexual violence, as long as they are human being. Other people, men and women in our community, should take responsibility and advocate, and not wait for us, a few organizations that continue fighting sexual violence, to keep making noise and fighting. Well, statistically show almost everybody around the world has been affected by sexual violence. And also men and women, it's an invitation for them to be able to define their manhood and their womanhood. What does that mean to you? Because if you can be able to understand what that means, and to remove all the stereotypes that have been taught to you, you are able to be you, to be a man that you deserve to be. Because I think we are so formed of bias and stereotypes that really control us, and we don't even have a contact within ourselves. Do you have anything else to say before I continue?
No, I think you did. I just wanted to touch. You brought up an interesting point about women or rape survivors telling someone, and I think it's important. Another sort of barrier we've seen in the news is like, oh yeah, it's just another girl crying rape, kind of thing. We've seen it in court cases, televised court cases, and that kind of thing. I don't have any specific examples, but I do watch court TV from time and again. So I think, it's hard to fathom that, like, telling people about rape or your rape situation is kind of hard to think, because it's like, oh, we want people to tell authorities when you get raped.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that really hurts my heart, because we should be able to stop it now, and so no one else ever has to get raped. But unfortunately, that's sort of the conundrum we're in, right? So I think, just to reiterate your point, that we need to believe survivors of sexual violence, and that hopefully should help other survivors of sexual violence speak up about their experience.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if people really knew how many people in their small circles, let alone their big circles, if they only knew how many people are affected by sexual violence, they might start to wake up a little bit, I think.
I think like the Me Too movement started. Me Too movement started, and it went so viral, and almost millions of people said that they have been a victim or survivors of sexual violence before. So we don't have to wait for Me Too movement. We don't have to wait for the movement or people going on and saying things. It should, like you said, stop now and not go ahead and continue bringing this education, because it's a sexual violence is and it's just power and control. If people can be able to protect their power, because if you think about why rape happened, is mostly because of power and control. People just want to feel in control, and we've seen that not only with sexual violence, even in our country, in the world that we live in. So many people are greedy. They just want things for themselves, what serve them, and forget about other people. I always want to mention that when we talk about rape and sexual violence, most of the time, and I ask this question because I teach teenagers a lot, and I ask them, who do you think rape people? And the example that I get mostly, it's like people with black clothes covering their face, and not. So that means that most people think that rape or sexual violence happen from strangers, but statistically,
like a dark shadowy
yeah,
figure with
like
a
it's
mask on or
not
something,
somebody,
right?
yeah, you connected to, they just came and rape, they come and rape you. But we've seen that sexual violence happen from the people you know, the people you're living with them in your house, the people who sees you, your family members, your community, the people who take care of you, the child, especially of cases of children, the caregivers, the teachers, the people who you we look up to, or the people that I said, the family members. And when we talk about this, we teach parents especially about child grooming, because before us somebody go ahead and rape a child, especially, it's that child has been a target for a long time, you know. They start like coming closer, closer, winning the trust. Nobody just come and just rape you. They win
Like
your
they've
trust.
been groomed
Yeah, they are so
without knowing it,
groomed.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and especially in my country, to be honest, like this, like right now, there's a lot high inflation. It's they we're living in a poverty, in a place of lack. We don't have food, we don't have basic needs. So when a girl who is a teenager or a child wants something but they cannot afford, a rapist or somebody who has been abusing kids will use that, and they continue providing, you know. I'm gonna buy you, provide for your need, buy you a book today. I'm gonna give you a ride tomorrow with a motorbike. I'm gonna take you tomorrow to this place. So the people are given opportunity or small, small gift to be groomed until the rapist win your trust. They're gonna tell you all good that you wanna hear. If you girl, you're such a beautiful, you are the most, until they are ready, and they take you away from the family. And I had a case, we had a case at Wounded Healers in Kenya. The one kid, a parent could not understand why a child was saying that they are survivors, they have been raped by a person that this parent knows. So this guy ride motorbike would go give a ride to this girl, and the mother would call the guy, go give a ride to my child, you know. So they were getting benefit, the mother was getting benefit, and the child was happy because was going home with a motorbike. But this guy was continued to groom this kid until it was like, so if you don't agree, I'm not gonna give you a ride. So a child is like, I need a ride, and my mom, they go to church together with this guy. So if a child tried to go and tell the mother, this guy is saying that, the mother will be like, no, he cannot do that, he's a man of God, he is in church. So this guy continued to abuse this girl for a long time, with this child being silent and saying, feeling as if she's the one who is wrong, to think that's rape. So one day we had an event at our office, Wounded Healers International, and our program manager was teaching kids about child grooming. And this child started crying and was like, what's going on, what's up? And then now the story came up. When the child told us, we went to ask the mother, you know, to take case front. They started blaming us because of the organization for teaching the kid, because that man was a man of God. It's like we're trying to get that man of God from the from the church. The mother was saying, this guy has been so helpful to us. I get an opportunity to work, he give ride to my daughter, all these things. So it had taken a lot of time and trust. And the girl was always in pain, but not knowing where to go. The time that she tried to tell the mother beat the girl and said she's crazy, until she came to our organization and we talked about that. So some of these cases are many. And when we do this work of talking about sharing our story, sharing our experience, we get people who get re-traumatized again. We open wounds that people think that they had healed. So I'm inviting you, if you're listening to us and you feel like this is triggering you, please go ahead. If you're in Kenya, I'm gonna share a number that you can go ahead and call, and somebody is gonna support you. And if you're in here in Maine or in the US or wherever you are in the world, look for somebody that you trust. Look for therapy. There's a lot of therapy online that you can do anonymously. You can talk to somebody that you've not met online, and they'll be able to help you a lot. And before we end our live conversation today, we are always Tara, before I say what I want to say, do you have anything else to add?
I just all I want to do is encourage people to speak out. If you've been raped and it was 20 years ago, start talking about it. You know, I wonder in my own family, you know, I don't know of anybody being raped, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. You know, by the numbers, someone did, you know. So like I just want people to start talking about it. Like you said, the Me Too movement kind of had its really, it came on really strong. You know, it doesn't seem like there's a lot in that world nowadays, but I don't think that we should end it there. We should tell your husbands, tell your sons, tell your daughters, and your whoever you are. Just start talking about it. Start letting people know how big of a problem this really is.
And like we said, it does not only happen to the people who are not married, who are not having partners, children. Most people who are married, and I whenever I teach this, especially in my tradition, because like I said, when a woman is married in my community, they are to serve a man. The man is in power. Like issues like having sex, there is never consent in our tradition. So I am inviting you to practice consent. And consent is for men and women or partners before you go to have a sexual intercourse with your partner, whether it's a husband or a wife or just your partner, you are in love. Just practice consent. Consent is asking, are you ready? Do you want it? Because if we can practice consent, it bring a lot of respect to one another, and somebody feel respected.
I just want to point out on the consent can be revoked at any point also.
Oh yeah.
And that's okay. You know, if you think about a situation where, you know, a man and a woman might be in the process of making love and the woman revokes consent, does that mean that the guy there's something wrong with that guy? You know what I mean? Like in his mind, maybe, right? And he might get angry, but we have to understand that, like, whatever her reasons are her reasons and they're valid, and just be okay with it. Tomorrow's another day, you know, that kind of thing. Like, so I just wanted to point out that consent, but also it can be removed, can be revoked at any moment. And that's okay.
And I think consent is like you setting a boundary. This is up where you come from. So whenever I teach empowerment, self-defense, and we get to learn how to set boundaries and to teach how people to have boundaries. So other than consent, when you're having sex, before you hug somebody in a market or wherever you are, ask for consent. Can I give you a hug? Because it starts by giving personal space. Don't just go touching people outside in the world just because they are your friends or you know them, they're your families. Those are the small culture that continue to fuel rape culture. So when you're outside for dinner, when you're with friends, when you're in gatherings and you see your friends, practice consent there. Ask somebody, can I give you a hug? Is it okay that I can hug you? Is it okay if I can shake your hands? Because those practicing in small ways is going to be able to people to practice boundaries and respect each other more of a period of time. And we're coming to our end of our live conversation. I always want to end by encouraging survivors of sexual violence and telling them that you are not alone and you can heal. Healing is a journey, it's a process, but it's achievable. And if you're listening to my voice and you are in a position to change policies and to set up strict rules that protect survivors of sexual violence, please go ahead and help us so that we can continue creating an environment that survivors of sexual violence can feel heard, seen, and loved. And if you're there and you've never thought about working to end sexual violence, I'm inviting you to this month only to go ahead and have few ideas, have discussions with your family, ask your kids whether they know what sexual violence is, or whether they know consent, or how they know, or what kind of life they live in school, and create an environment that your children will always have been able to communicate with you. Check on your friend. If you find somebody withdrawing, check in and see what's going on. And if you're in a position to donate to any organization that works so hard to support survivors of sexual violence, or to edit or to educate the community, go ahead and give some support in whichever way to a local nonprofit that you know, especially during this month. That's very important month for many organizations like Wounded Healers International. Parting shot, Tyler.
Yes, I wanted to point out that this is a big holiday weekend across many religions where family members and friends will be gathering. So I just wanted to point out that some people, maybe a lot of people, are visiting with family members that may have been their rapist, and or they're just uncomfortable, and it's okay to say no to hugs even if it's from family members. Also, if you are in that situation, tell somebody before you get there. Have somebody on your side, at least have an advocate for you as well. So take care of yourselves.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We love you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We will always have these live videos every Friday, the same hour, and we look forward to having you. We have a whole guest with so many people with good knowledge and ideas, and I look forward to seeing you again. So cheers and bye.